Issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's a live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
Watagwan. Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m. and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
CVM News at 7 Tuesday, brought to you by
KFC value menu. As you thinking chicken, get the chicken box combo for just $680.
Tonight in CVM News at 7, fury at the pump, gasoline attendant charged after fiery attack. Objection, tension mounts at Supreme Court during Klansman trial. Gardens of pain, residents protest the police fatal shooting. Problems in paradise, jet flags groundbreaking for unapproved development in Negril. In the business report, BOJ reports improved inflation outlook post Melissa, while in sports, historic days ahead for Jamaica basketball. From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7. It's Tuesday, February 24, 2026. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Thank you so much for joining us. Jamaica's Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness has called on Caribbean leaders to respond to the deepening crisis in Cuba with clarity and courage. Speaking during the opening session of the CARICOM Summit in Basseterre, the outgoing CARICOM chairman underscored the urgency of the situation confronting the Cuban people, pointing to severe economic hardship energy shortages, and escalating humanitarian strain. Now, Cuba continues to operate under comprehensive economic, financial, and commercial embargo imposed by the United States, largely restricting U.S. companies from conducting businesses in the island. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened sanctions on countries which continue to do business with the Spanish island.
We must address the situation in Cuba with clarity and courage. Jamaica is sensitive to the struggles of the Cuban people. Apart from our fraternal care and solidarity with the Cuban people, it must be clear that a prolonged crisis in Cuba will not remain confined to Cuba. It will affect migration, security, and economic stability across the Caribbean basin. It is therefore important that we carefully consider this matter and take collective action.
30-year-old pump attendant Colette Swaby of Old Road, Whitehorn, Westmoreland has been charged with assault occasioning bodily harm, aggravated assault by detectives assigned to the Westmoreland Policing Division following an incident that was captured in a viral video on Thursday, February 19. Now, reports from the Whitehorn police indicate that at about midday, a woman went to the service station where Swaby is employed and a confrontation ensued. It's alleged that the dispute escalated, now during which time Swaby doused the woman with a flammable substance and set her on fire. The woman was assisted by bystanders who extinguished the flames and transported her to hospital, where she remains undergoing treatment. Swaby was subsequently arrested and taken into custody, where she was formally charged on Monday. Now, this following a question and answer session. A court date is currently being finalized. Tension surfaced in the Supreme Court on Tuesday as objections interrupted the testimony of the prosecution witness, a deputy superintendent of police, in the 2020 Bridgeport incident, a St. Catherine shooting involving a police constable. Now, our reporter Carla Ramdeen has been covering the Klansman trial.
The prosecution's 10th witness took the stand Tuesday. A deputy superintendent of police was attached to the St. Catherine South Division in 2020. The witness told the court he was on duty on February 27, 2020, when a police constable came to the station to report a shooting in Bridgeport, St. Catherine. He said he traveled behind the constable back to the location. Upon arrival, the DSP testified he observed the scene and saw Spence casings within the perimeter. After determining the incident involved an agent of the state, he contacted Indicom, MID, and the JCF Area 5 Scenes of Crime Division to process the scene. He said the area was photographed and the Spence casings were removed and sealed by an Indicom personnel in the presence of a JCF member. The firearm used by the constable was also retrieved, sealed, and labeled by Indicom before being handed to him as the investigating officer. He told the court the weapon and ammunition was handed over the next day to a Portmore CIB officer with instructions for it to be delivered to the Institute of Forensic Science for ballistic testing. The DSP further testified that during his time assigned to the case, no suspects were identified. During cross-examination, the witness acknowledged he did not request an identification parade. He also said he could not recall the number of rounds involved, agreeing it was highly possible the figure could have been 10. He confirmed he saw the constable count rounds and said he would have been satisfied because they were checked in his presence. Attorney at law Paul Gentles, representing the accused Michael Wildman, Jerome Spike, and Owen Billings, attempted to question the DSP about details of a possible getaway vehicle. The prosecution objected. Gentles argued that establishing such details fell within the witness's investigative duty. He then asked whether the DSP received any information about a white Tita motor car linked to the incident. Again, the prosecution objected, arguing the question sought hearsay. Despite repeated attempts by the defense to reframe the question, objections were upheld each time. The prosecution maintained the line of questioning referred to information from a document not in evidence. The defense then sought agreement to have the document admitted into evidence, but the prosecution declined. Carla Ramdeen, CVM News.
Residents of Estuary Housing Scheme in St. James are voicing frustration tonight as sewage continues to overflow on their street, creating unsanitary conditions and disrupting daily life. They say it's affecting commuters. Taxi operators refuse to operate in the area affected. Kevin Black reports.
Residents of the Estuary Housing Scheme in St. James Parish are expressing frustration after raw sewage began overflowing from a drain, creating unsanitary conditions in the community. The issue, they say, has been affecting their street for weeks without intervention.
My daughter, even when she took taxi, the taxi driver refused to let her off right here. The driver wanted to let her off further up
far down
because they don't want to stop here. And I'm afraid too, because of my vehicle that is parked so close. I can come in the yard as normally in the driveway. I have to be parking like that, and drivers that are swinging out of it, I'm afraid that they might hit my vehicle that is parked in the yard. So I'm fearful that my vehicle might get damaged because they're trying to escape the pothole and the sewage. More than a month, maybe going into 2 months. Going into 2 months now, we are having this issue around here.
They emphasized the overflow has forced motorists to avoid the area and has created major disruptions, with some taxi operators refusing to enter the streets altogether.
My daughter, even when she took taxi, the taxi driver refused to let her off right here. The driver wanted to let her off further up
far down
because they don't want to stop here. And I'm afraid too, because of my vehicle that is parked so close. I can come in the yard as normally in the driveway. I have to be parking like that, and drivers that are swinging out of it, I'm afraid that they might hit my vehicle that is parked in the yard. So I'm fearful that my vehicle might get damaged because they're trying to escape the pothole and the sewage.
Community members also claim multiple reports have been made to the relevant authorities, including the National Housing Trust, but they say no action has been taken, leaving them concerned about the health risks and the long-term impact on their community.
Well, I have instructed inform NHT about it, and I got no response. So I don't know what else to do. It's not just now, it's not just 2 months ago. It's been going on.
Kevin Black reporting for CVM News.
A groundbreaking ceremony for a major development in the resort town of Negril has raised concerns for the Environment Trust, the Jamaica Environment Trust, JET. But even as JET says there are critical questions for the government to answer, the project appears to have already received the blessing of one government ministry.
Speeches, including a keynote address by Labour Minister Pernell Charles Jr.
Jamaica is truly open for business despite hurricanes, despite the threat of disasters.
And chit-chat after this groundbreaking ceremony for the Paradise Resort in Westmoreland. A statement from the Ministry of Labour at the weekend said the government welcomed the groundbreaking for the Negril Paradise Integrated Resort on Friday, spearheaded by 7 Builders Jamaica Limited. The ministry said this was a demonstration of investor confidence in Jamaica. Labour Minister Pernell Charles Jr. said the groundbreaking was more than a symbolic event. But CEO of the Jamaica Environment Trust, Dr. Teresa Rodriguez Moody, is asking how the groundbreaking took place when the necessary approvals for the project do not appear to be in place. She says one big concern is the environmental impact assessment for the project.
The EIA that would have been done was 2006, 2007. And you are having a groundbreaking ceremony. There are no permits. And in fact, what we learned from NEPA is that they've been required to resubmit. It's not entirely clear if they've been told to redo an environmental impact assessment. But the fact is, it's 20 years ago, roughly. And therefore, things have changed. And so it's important that we do over the process.
According to Dr. Rodriguez Moody, social and environmental conditions in Negril have changed in the past 20 years, and yet the groundbreaking was held.
What we're very concerned about is not just that there's no updated EIA, but that there was a groundbreaking ceremony. We had a minister of government there pretty much appearing to endorse a project that has no permit, and this is a problem. Because there is a presumption, it appears that there's a presumption of approval.
JET is also worried about the possible impact of the development on the environment in Negril, given planning restrictions in the resort area. One of their major concerns that despite the questions, the project has essentially already been greenlit.
There are strict limits, height limits in Negril. There are setback requirements. There are coastal and wetland protections. These are not arbitrary boxes that you just tick. These are things that must be taken into consideration. Now, yes, it is early days, but we were late with some of the other developments, and it had really gone through the gate already, and we don't want a situation like that. So it's very important that we highlight this as an issue so that these things are taken into consideration. We don't want an announcement to mean that there's approval.
Dr. Rodriguez Moody says this issue highlights recently expressed concerns from local environmental groups that NEPA is located in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development instead of the Ministry of Environment.
When you put environment in a ministry that is focused on development or infrastructure, oftentimes, and history has shown us this, that environment tends to suffer. When you put it with tourism, when you put it with housing, and this has happened, when you put it with mining, all of these different things usually take precedence because the environment is not usually seen as something that is critical. And the fact is we do need to, again, timing. Hurricane Melissa has shown us that the health of our environment makes us more resilient, and therefore it is problematic to have an environment ministry now, which is great, and NEPA doesn't sit there.
Now, CVM News has reached out to the National Environment and Planning Agency and the Minister of the Environment for comment. We take another break here on CVM News at 7. More to come after the break.
Chicken mega deal, super chicken mega deal.
The KFC value menu has you thinking chicken. Get the famous pork combo for just $640. KFC.
This is Flow, Jamaica's fastest mobile network, as verified by Ookla. It's the result of a complete network rebuild, with more power backup to reduce outages and satellite backup for greater mobile stability. You can even make regular calls using Wi-Fi. Welcome to our new era of connectivity, and we're not stopping there. This is Flow, Jamaica's network.
It's 8 a.m. and Mr. Thompson can't find chalk. Or his dignity. Is white squalid? Meanwhile, on site, error, a mash-up concrete. Or so it seems. Wait, I can't embellish that. It's almost that time for Ashley's belly to plop out. Don't get creative with your hunger. Solve it with Mothers.
Mommy, ice cream.
Even the little ones get hungry too. Mothers, all day delicious. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Welcome back. We're continuing the news. Residents of Craigtown Arnett Gardens in St. Andrew are vowing to continue demonstrating after a fire roadblock on Monday, protesting the fatal shooting of former footballer Lucian Anderson by the police. Police say a targeted operation was conducted in the area and that during a search of Anderson's premises, he opened gunfire at the officers. Residents dispute that version. Residents and relatives inside the room of Lucian Anderson in Arnett Gardens on Monday, showing CVM News his collection of football trophies and certificates. The 55-year-old was killed by lawmen in an alleged shootout on Sunday. Residents dispute the claim, insisting he was involved in football.
Wicked them father, the police are wicked. Wicked against father. Uncle are good youth. You come kill my uncle and place and thing for nothing. For nothing.
They say he used to drink and was somewhat of a philanderer, but not a criminal.
Lucian is not no killer and is not no damn. Lucian is a robber and like to make. The police have analyzed my uncle for no reason. Because them have no motive for the killing. And never come cook gun on him like it. I'm uncle a junkie. Uncle a robber. If the rum would have killed him, he'd have feel better.
They claim the police removed a camera that was installed at the dwelling and also planted a weapon on Mr. Anderson. And so, placard-bearing residents took to the streets in Arnett Gardens and surrounding areas Monday, blocking roads, demanding answers. Leader of the opposition and South St. Andrew Member of Parliament Mark Golding said he was shocked and saddened at the killing, noting the circumstances are, quote, troubling. He says he has asked the Independent Commission of Investigations for a thorough probe. Assistant Commissioner of Police Michael Phipps is commanding officer for the Area 4 Police. According to Indicom, police say a targeted operation was being conducted in the area. The police reported that during the search of the now deceased's premises, the man opened gunfire at the officers. The officers fired in response, and the man sustained gunshot injuries and was thereafter pronounced dead at the hospital.
Commissioner of Police, we are asking the police. We are urging the police to wait on body cam so we can see the real truth. We want the police them to wear them body cam so we can see the evidence. Say him shoot off our. Why you not wearing the body cam? Why you not wearing your body cam?
They insist they will continue protesting.
Against injustice and wickedness.
42 persons have been shot and killed by the security forces so far in 2026, 10 fewer than the 52 at the same period in 2025. In other news, there's an urgent appeal for help tonight for Jamaica's teenage mothers, as health officials warn many are facing serious nutritional deficiencies. Victoria Jubilee Hospital treated more than 1,000 teenage mothers last year, many of whom hospital staff say were lacking basic food and essential supplements. The crisis could be putting both young mothers and their babies at risk. Amoy Harriet reports.
Roughly 16 to 18% of live births in Jamaica are to teenage mothers. This means that around 1 in every 6 babies born in Jamaica today has a mother aged 19 or younger, a stark indicator of how widespread teenage pregnancy remains and how the continuing need for targeted health, nutrition, and support services. But these are critical areas consultant at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, Dr. Palmer Cole, says are woefully inadequate. Now, the hospital treated some 1,000 young mothers and delivered just over 100 of their babies in 2025. Most of the mothers were between 13 and 16 years old.
Part of the issue that we're having is that they have some nutritional problems. And so some mornings they would come in and some of them would fall ill because of lack of having breakfast and things like that. Some of them can't afford to, not all. Some of them can't afford to, some of them just did not have.
It's why the Crisis Support Charity recently handed over $230,000 to Victoria Jubilee Hospital's Teenage Antenatal Clinic Breakfast Program, a donation intended to fund nutritious morning meals for expectant teenagers attending the clinic. Hospital officials said the funds will be used immediately to provide meals, supplements, and educational resources for new parents. Stephen Joseph is a co-director of the Crisis Support Charity.
And we are passionate about working with teenage moms as well, because most times when a teenage mother, something of that sort happen, they tend to not get support. And so we tell these teen moms that, listen, it is not a full stop, it's just a redirection. And so we're amplifying what we're saying.
Nutrition aside, Dr. Palmer Cole is raising concerns that young parents aren't getting enough support in other areas. She's appealing to the public and the private sector to do more.
Well, sometimes they need help with just supplies for the baby when the baby comes, that sort of thing. The other thing that they need social support, mental health support, that sort of thing. So we try to provide some of those things in the clinic. We are inviting you to come and see for yourself, and see what the needs are.
Even as the Minister of National Security has found himself embroiled in a war of words with civil society groups over police tactics and body-worn camera concerns, Dr. Horace Chang continues to talk of the success of the JCF. Speaking on CVM's lead story on Monday, Dr. Chang detailed how the strengthened police force is working to keep communities safe. Kevin Black tells us more.
Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chang, says Jamaica is making meaningful progress in its fight against crime, crediting major investments aimed at strengthening the police force and disrupting gang activity. Speaking on CVM's lead story Monday, the minister highlighted increased police numbers and intelligence-led operations as key factors behind the recent decline in murders.
Take steps to at least build the police force, both physically and numbers, to deal with the level of gangster in the country. So we have expanded the police force. They are now just 14,000 when they're below 12,000 before. In fact, they were more like 10,000.
Dr. Chang says enhanced training, improved equipment, and stronger leadership have boosted the Jamaica Constabulary Force's ability to respond more effectively to criminal threats and maintain public safety.
Tipping point is not yet complete, I must say quite frankly, but we are at what I call the critical point where we are beginning to get outcome. The support with the JDF continues. So you have a security team that is stronger and a better position to disrupt gangsters.
He adds that sustained investment and continued reforms within the criminal justice system will be essential to maintaining the downward trend and ensuring safer communities.
We are on top of the gangs, but there are still many young men out there with guns who will do harm to individuals. And we have to keep working at it and back ensuring that the police get the kind of equipment they require. Some legislative changes are coming, some have gone before, and all of it will be put together to ensure that the criminal justice system works in the interest of the wider community.
Kevin Black reporting for CVM News.
Motorists in St. James are already using newly resurfaced roads as the Spark program continues across the parish. Works Minister Robert Morgan says more progress is on the way. Details in this report.
Residents and motorists in St. James are seeing changes on the roads as the Spark program continues across the parish.
The Spark program is ongoing. We have rehabilitated several roads in St. James. St. James would have five constituencies, and each constituency would have either started roads or completed roads. There are some constituencies, like the constituency of the Deputy Prime Minister and the MP Malawi Fort, who would have seen significant work, for example, on Moy Hall and in Flanker in the constituency of Horace Chang.
The program has already seen several roads rehabilitated, with one section of the perimeter road nearing completion. Though incomplete, motorists are already using the newly paved stretches.
The main section, which is the initial section of the perimeter road, which is from Iron Shore all the way to Bogue, that is 75% complete. As a matter of fact, persons have started driving on sections of it already. We have not stopped them because we realize that it is a good relief for a lot of the residents, especially residents closest to the entrance. We are also very well advanced with the Long Hill bypass. A lot of the work that we're doing on the Long Hill right now is earthworks and also some land acquisition. We expect that we will be able to open the perimeter road before the end of the year.
Minister Morgan added that he is committed to ensuring the Spark program continues efficiently while addressing concerns about the speed of the work.
But I will be the first to admit that we want to speed up the work because we do not believe that we're doing as much work as we should be doing to make people really be confident in the speed of the Spark program. While the speed at which we are rehabilitating the roads may be an issue, the quality of the roads is not an issue. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that really endears persons to the Spark program is the quality of roads that they're getting, quality of roads that they have not really seen before in their communities.
Reporting for CVM News, I'm Giovanni Hamilton.
Now, after successfully completing the Sagicor Sigma recently, Jodian Quarry is doing another marathon today. She now joins us with a preview of what's coming up in Lead Story Prime at 8. Jodian.
This cannot be the way that you're telling people about what we're talking about tonight, Giovanni, but that is what we will be doing. We're focused on 96% of Jamaica being underwater. Did you know that? Well, we focus only on 4% of this country every single day, but after Hurricane Melissa, we could be making millions, if not billions of dollars and not have new taxes if only we would use our ocean footprint. So we talk about that tonight. Is Jamaica thinking big enough as we focus on Jamaica as a maritime state? That's us at 8 o'clock.
Anything that brings less taxes, I'm sure Jamaicans will be interested in that. I'm very much interested in that as well. All right, so that's Lead Story Prime coming up at 8 o'clock with Jody and Corey. Now we take another break here on CVM News at 7. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Chicken mega deal, super chicken mega deal.
The KFC value menu has you thinking chicken. Get the famous bone combo for just $640. KFC. The KFC value menu has you thinking chicken. Get the famous bone combo for just $640.
The time by KFC is 7:30.
Welcome back. It's now time for the Business Report with Joel Crosskill.
Several points of interest for you in the Business Report today, relating to the revised outlook of the Bank of Jamaica emerging from the first BOJ Quarterly Monetary Policy Report press conference of 2026. BOJ Governor Richard Biles, chairman of the Monetary Policy Committee MPC, spoke to the faster-than-anticipated pace of recovery driven in large part by the agriculture sector, as well as the accelerated return of electrification to operations impacted by Hurricane Melissa as contributing factors.
Since we last met in December, incoming macroeconomic data indicate that initial direct effect of Hurricane Melissa on inflation has been less severe than earlier projected. In the context of the improved inflation outturn and outlook, Bank of Jamaica's Monetary Policy Committee, the MPC, decided unanimously to reduce the policy rate by 25 basis points to 5.50% per annum, effective today.
For the 3 months after the hurricane, Statin recorded inflation rates within or just slightly below the lower limit of the bank's target range of 4 to 6%.
The bank now projects that inflation will average 5.9% over the next 2 years. This forecast is below the previous projection for an average of 7.4%. It is projected that following possible temporary breaches of the upper limit of the target in the June and September quarters of this year, inflation will return to the target range by the end of December 2026 quarter.
Admittedly, the central bank's projections did not include the impact of the government's recently announced revenue measures.
The tax package will have an effect of compressing demand, but the government also has a large program of deficit spending, and that will increase demand. So I don't think that growth is going to be negatively impacted in net terms by the tax package.
The Monetary Policy Committee were also asked about the potential impact of U.S. tariffs on Jamaica's recovery horizons.
Well, to the extent that we have manufactured exports, that tariff will hurt. Tourism, which is if you want to call it an export service, is exempt from the tariff, and I don't know if any changes have been made to that in this new tariff, but generally and previously, tourism was not captured with that. So to the extent tourism is our major export, if you could call it that, I don't expect that it will have a big impact on the country.
While debt to GDP is expected to deteriorate over the near term, largely due to the negative impact of the hurricane on the tourism industry and the increased level of importation needed for infrastructure rebuild and relief supplies, the decline in the current account will be slowed by increased remittance inflows and insurance receipts.
Notwithstanding the worsened balance of payments current account, Jamaica's international reserves remain robust, standing at a historical high level of US $6.8 billion.
Jamaica's growth prospects were also mentioned.
For the financial year 2025-26, the bank anticipates a decline in real GDP in a range of -1% to -3%, a smaller contraction than our previous estimate. As the economy recovers, real GDP growth for financial year 26-27 is projected in a range of 1 to 3%. The bank now anticipates a full recovery in economic activity post-Hurricane Melissa in 2 to 3 years, faster than the previous estimate of 3 to 4 years.
Since the passage of the hurricane, the bank has sold approximately US $365 million into the market between the 1st of November 2025 to the 31st of January 2026. The bank also sold $87 million to Petrojam over this period, resulting in cumulative sales of $452 million. Importantly, the bank net purchased approximately $152 million since the hurricane.
Cumulatively, BOJ sold $1.1 billion via its BFIXIT facility over the 12 months to the end of January 2026, in line with the US $1.1 billion it sold over the 12 months to the end of January 2025.
And that was your business report. I'm Joel Crosskill.
We go now to regional and international news with Marshall Hazley.
We begin with regional news. After a spike in public concern about the future of Grenadian students in Cuba, Grenadian Ambassador to Cuba Glenn Noel confirms that there are no immediate plans to evacuate students. More from Grenada Broadcasting Network.
Like other Caribbean islands, Grenada is monitoring the situation and devising evacuation plans to protect its nationals if needed. However, Ambassador Noel stressed that these plans are not immediate because the situation on the ground remains stable.
At this moment,